Bonjour tout le monde. Guten Morgen zusammen. Good morning everybody. My name is Jochen Lentes here from the Fraunhofer Institute for Industrial Engineering, IAO, in Stuttgart. A very warm welcome also from our side. So it's a big pleasure to have you all here because we're convinced that the theme of the day, which is basically openness in Industry 4.0, is really, really needed, because without openness we won't achieve any of the objectives of Industry 4.0. It's a big pleasure to have the event of Nexedi today here, because we're very good project partners, having, for example, an EU-funded project called DREAM, which was concerned to bring simulation, ERP, basically nowadays one would call it Industry 4.0, to SMEs, to small and medium-sized companies, which are not capable to have a IT landscape starting with Siemens on the shop floor and ending up with SAP wherever, but need really software which is focused to their needs, does not introduce a lot of additional efforts, but with, I would say, focused on the added value for the company, driving the business. So, and based on this project, other projects around Industry 4.0, we have, like, for example, we made the concept and training for the Industry 4.0 Scouts of Baden-Württemberg, so a quite famous thing, because these scouts are targeting especially small, medium-sized companies, which are the driver for competitiveness, for growth, for jobs, not only Baden-Württemberg and Germany, but also all over Europe. So a very important area of the business. And also there we've seen that with the solutions coming from big software vendors, which are try to make their own ecosystems, we won't achieve anything which we want to achieve concerning Industry 4.0, because this has to be based on getting data and information and using it and making this, I would say, into flow. The flow of data and information coming from a sort of engineering, manufacturing engine towards the shop floor, getting this then back to not only advance the production and manufacturing itself, but also the systems around it. But all this is then about the flow of information and data which should be used and owned by the respective company they come from, but not for maybe an external ecosystem, which is a strongly data-driven business. And of course, we then need also the coupling of these different information technologies of the systems. For example, like an ERP coming from Nexedi. But what we learned is we need the flow of information, we need the openness, starting with OPC UA and ending up maybe in the ERP or PLM system. So based on our experience, it's an important topic, and therefore I'm really looking forward to this day, the interesting themes, and also to deepen our cooperation with Jean-Paul and his company Nexedi, because I think even if Fraunhofer is not so famous for doing open source, there are many of our 70 institutes which are doing open source, which favor this, which are aware about the importance of open source as it is today for Industry 4.0, but often not only in business, but also in the, I would say, private or consumer context. So I don't want to give you a lecture now. I just want to hand over to Jean-Paul Smith, CEO of Nexedi. I wish all of us an interesting, exciting, and successful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So hello, good morning. So I'm Jean-Paul Smets. We tried to organize this small meetup about 4 or 5 months ago. And I really want to thank you for coming and being so many. So we'll have a very tight schedule today. So speakers usually are given 15 minutes. And we have here Elena, who will make a 5 sign to remind you that you have 5 minutes left. And you will be forcibly cut at the end. So don't hesitate to cut me too. I'll just introduce the meeting. First, which are the companies that are here, because it's not only Nexedi. We have the idea that around open source there could be a kind of European ecosystem of small and medium-sized companies. which are mutually complementary. Then we'll make a brief overview of what we understood as Industry 4.0, and we'll introduce something, let's call it the Stuttgart Libre Stack, since we're in Stuttgart, and we have a combination of free software or Libre software that together can fit all the different sides of Industry 4.0. So let's announce the Stuttgart Libre Stack, and I'll define at the end the meetup goals. So, about the companies. So, Nexedi, we are a 18 years old company present mainly in Europe and Asia. And we have big customers like Toyota, Peugeot, Cars, Mitsubishi, Airbus, Kyorin in Japan, Highways in France, SANEF, even the Department of Transportation in Oregon is indirectly our customer. We've been doing free software and only free software, only under GPL license, no proprietary license for 18 years. And our portfolio nowadays covers roughly any need of an enterprise. Sometimes we say that our portfolio, whether it's infrastructure, back-end or front-end, has a scope that is maybe not as wide, but not that different in terms of wideness as Microsoft would have for enterprise. It's very often unknown that there are in Europe small companies like Nexedi that have as much software as Microsoft has. Politicians don't know it, but we believe there are at least 10 companies like us. And we have Linutronics, who are the people who really know and created real-time Linux. And they are from Germany, and they've done extraordinary things, and they will show us how they use real-time Linux in real tooling for automotive industry. We have Olimex, that are the world pioneers for open hardware, especially for industrial applications. And MariaDB Foundation, the most widely used database in the world, used actually yesterday to do the largest sales in the world by Alibaba and Taobao, because it was 11/11 in China, and MariaDB could handle the load of the whole China for online sales. And we have Slowtech that has been doing very interesting things in embedded systems that can be proven through strong typing at compilation. So, Industry 4.0, I think we cannot escape from saying it's German industrial policy. It was introduced in 2011 at Hanover Fair with the presence of the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel. I think it has a budget of 200 million euro for R&D or more. I would say that that's very little compared to the massive subsidies Chinese industries get. Any good member of the Communist Party can get €1 billion to create his own factory with public money. It starts as a public company, and after some accounting tricks through some gray areas of Chinese law, it becomes a private company. So, if it's that easy to invest, and if we sometimes listen to all German entrepreneurs that tell us that with the latest equipment, Chinese industry is now producing better and better with higher and higher quality, something innovative has to be done to compete. In a sense, that's Industry 4.0. Because one thing that is difficult to do in China with €1 billion investment is to be different. Because if somebody is different, maybe he might be corrupted. So people tend to do what already exists in order to prove that they are not doing anything wrong. On the other hand, German companies or European companies can innovate, because with subsidies for research and development, it is required to innovate. So that's the political side. The technical side, so that's a kind of naive drawing, but if we have robots that are moving in a factory, communicating via radio with tools, that are automated, supervised by humans who get supported in their decisions. And with distributed companies that are able to deliver just in time all the different parts to build an end product, which itself contains some data collection and smart sensors that provide a feedback to the designer so that the next product might be better designed just a week or 2 weeks after, and production tools are better configured to make something more precise. If that dream is possible, maybe that's Industry 4.0. And just a simple thing such as radio, if robots are mobile, they are no longer connected by cables. That means industrial automation might no longer be based on wires, but also on radio. That's not that easy if we need determinism. So we've studied all the reports we could find, and we have now a kind of table that provides a classification of the topics related to Industry 4.0. There are the 4 standard types. We call it general. The first, interoperability or interconnection. Machines and machines should be able to communicate through open standards. Information transformation, which is also sometimes called information transparency, states that anything in the physical reality should have a proxy or pending representation in the IT world in a one-to-one fashion. That's a bit different from traditional ways with relational database. Technical assistant means that the human should benefit from machine learning models or decision, let's say, technologies that help the human decide in operating the factory. And decentralized decisions may be something like what we see in automotive industry with the concept of micro factories or micro assembly, or strongly interconnected network of small to medium-sized companies that are able to produce more personalized goods and better than mass production in large factories. That's the 4 general dimensions. Then it can be then analyzed per business, production, logistics, customer retention, and the biggest one we see is related to smart tooling or smart products. And for each case, we have found that there is a given type of computer science that can, let's say, fulfill the requirements of Industry 4.0. For example, there's no way to collect lots of data without a big data store. There is no way to have decentralized production without a way to manage thousands of devices in a completely decentralized way. So actually, Klaus is going, Wölfel, who is there, I should say Dr. Klaus Wölfel, who is going to talk about this tomorrow in Berlin at Fraunhofer Focus, that is starting a European consortium for edge computing, especially for Industry 4.0. So, yeah, and Joachim, you said Fraunhofer doesn't do so much open source, but Fraunhofer in Dresden is doing one of the core implementation of OPC UA in open source. And it's a very important component for the future of Industry 4.0. So another example, thank you, 5 minutes. We might need, for example, networks that actually work, because if we have thousands of devices, what I can assure you that if you connect them to any telecom provider, whether it's in Germany or France, they won't be interconnected about 1 to 2% of the time. Internet doesn't work nowadays in Europe or US. In China, it's even worse. You always get disconnections from a few seconds to a few hours. So, OPC UA, we read recently that Volkswagen is now the 600th member of the OPC Foundation. OPC-UA has finally adopted the concept of PubSub, something that's been present since the 90s in DDS, the data distribution system that's used to, for example, to control air traffic in Europe or armies in Germany, France, and US. So nowadays, there's a framework for machine-to-machine communication or industrial automation that's open and stable and can even handle TSN, time-sensitive networks. It's a huge step forward. So the Stuttgart Libre stack, well, we have here some companies we mentioned. Nexedi covers, I would say, backend, big data. ARM has tools actually made in Japan, but it belongs to ARM. We no longer know if it's Japanese or European. They are called FluentD and Mbulk. They provide complete interoperability for big data. Linutronics provides everything one needs for real-time embedded systems. Splitted Desktop, they are not there, provide open hardware for servers. Olimex, open hardware for embedded systems. MariaDB, high-performance relational database. Kivio 3D, virtual reality and augmented reality in HTML5. And Slowtech, embedded strong type systems. That's open hardware from SDS, same servers as the one running in Facebook. And I conclude with the meetup goals. First, we'll share some success cases of the Stuttgart Libre stack. Second, we will show some technologies, such as eBook, which provides interoperability for big data. That's a bit new. Next, some research results where we show how GPUs can be used at the sensor level to detect wrong vibrations. Then, after each 15-minute presentation, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to initiate an ecosystem. For example, Nexedi will be happy to use a technology from Linutronics called Elber for their future edge systems. And for those who want, let's prepare an EU research project from 4 to 5 at the end of the meeting. You can find many references, and if you go to the participant page, there is a QR code. You can try to take a picture. With this QR code, that's also on the table, you will be brought directly to participant information with a link for each presentation. Thank you.